Yay. Okay. So we're live on Instagram. We're live on Facebook. Hello. And this is also going to go onto Instagram, or not Instagram, YouTube, which I'm so excited about. Okay. If this is your first time meeting me, my name is Lauren Saracione. I am a personal trainer, a transformational life coach, and an energy healer. And today we are talking about how to eat junk food and still get your fire body goals. You have a little bit of an overview in the caption, so be sure to check that out. I've got my notes here, so we're going to stay on track. And hopefully, this is going to be about 15, 20 minutes at the most. So, the first thing that we're going to talk about is the truth about food, energy, and manifestation. So, what I want to share with you about this, we have three topics, and one of which you are going to have the exact actionable steps that we take in the PHAT Life. And the PHAT Life is my signature program that you can do four ways. You can do gamified, which is $49 a month, where you have everything that you need in our community, and you have your leaderboard keeps track of your activity and your participation and your progress so that you can win a group coaching call once a month. You can join the community coaching, which is with a bunch of badass boss babes, self-led women just like you, where we have everything that's in the gamified plus a weekly group coaching call. Then you can join for private, which is you and me, in addition to what you have in the gamified and the community. But then we also have our Telegram chat where I coach you Tuesdays through Fridays. And then also we have two monthly calls for you to have more support. And then the final way that you can do the PHAT Life is with an intensive. And the intensive is a 90-minute meeting, and you give me an intake form before we do that so that I know exactly what you want. And then we have our 90-minute call. You have everything that you need. And then 6 weeks later, we have an integration call to where we can go over and fine tune whatever it is that you need. So there are four ways to get fat with me, and that is PHAT, to process, heal, align, and transcend. Okay. So food is where your energy is manifesting. That's the very first thing that I want to share with you. So when we're looking at the relationship with our food, this is not the humdrum old protocol of let's heal your relationship with food. No, 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 no. When you understand, when you comprehend, when you learn how energy manifests, it is very easy to see how the energy is manifesting in our food or in our body image. So, when we're looking at it with the food is storing, we are projecting all of the feelings that we already have about ourselves onto the food. And I learned this very, very well not when I recovered from binge eating 14 or 15 years ago now, but when I was tracking macros on a reverse diet in 2022, along with having an incredibly strict list of anti inflammation foods. And I was really upset because I couldn't eat all the basics. I couldn't have the tilapia or any other low fat whitefish. I couldn't have greens. I couldn't have the salad, the broccoli, the asparagus. I couldn't eat a bunch of the things that are the surefire way to fill up your stomach with a lot of volume and not a lot of calories. So I was really frustrated that I basically had root vegetables, squash, peppers, onions, and mushroom as my roughage to fill up my stomach. And so I was frustrated, and I was frustrated that in order for me to actually track the progress, because I was working with a coach, to track the progress, I had to actually measure everything to plug it into the spreadsheet so that I could have my check-ins with him once a week to say, like, well, are you hitting your macros? How is your body changing? Well, we can't measure if you're not going to write it down. So I was feeling really frustrated that I didn't have a big list of food to choose from and that I had to be meticulous in my tracking. Then it occurred to me that there are people all over the world that love tracking macros that actually feel liberation. They feel freedom around their food because to them, tracking the macros is actually objective. It's not a subjective emotional experience. They can plug in their numbers for their protein, their fat, and the carbs, and they know what it is, and they know they can rely on the results. So when this occurred to me that people all over the world loved tracking macros and lived by it no problem, I was like, ding, 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 ding. The problem is with me. Frustration lives in me. I am just projecting it onto the food and experiencing it through the strategy because I am attached to the outcome, which is, drum roll, my six-pack dream body. So when I realized this, I was like, well, this is where attachment theory comes into play. This is where manifestation, laws of the universe come into play. So what I did is I started to look at every area of my life where I felt frustrated and I cleaned up that area because believe it or not, the millionaire matchmaker was lingering in my head when she went to an Abraham Hicks channeling, and she was saying how she has not met the love of her life. And it doesn't make sense because she herself is the millionaire matchmaker. How has she not met the love of her life? And Abraham said through Esther, you're too close to the subject. You are involved in the subject. And so you have to get your mind off of the subject if you are going to manifest this man of your dreams. So that really made sense to me that, okay, I'm not going to change my relationship with macro tracking and how frustrated I am with my limited eating list and my limited amount of calories to get my body fat down. I'm too attached to the food. I'm too attached to the strategy. I'm too attached to the dream body. Where else can I work on the energy of frustration? So, what happens is because this is energy, because this emotion is emotional, and because we are the directors of our energy, wherever we work on the emotion, it will alleviate its magnitude in whatever area of life that it could be projected onto. And so when I started to clean up my finances, like literally like made spreadsheets for all of my bills and got everything completely organized and created a system that I was going to put everything into a binder for my finances and have a scratch piece of paper and staple my receipts to it so that when it was time to do taxes, I would have the receipts right there ready instead of in just some big bag at the end of the year. When I started to clear out frustration in all areas of my life, then when it came to the macros, there was less frustration energy going into it. So it makes so much sense. And when we're looking at manifestation, so many times people are like stuck in la la land about manifestation that we're just supposed to close our eyes, hum, think happy thoughts, and things are going to come to us. Or they're quote unquote working on manifestation. Manifestation is just something happening. There's nothing that you can do to stop it or create it. Like this is just what happens in the material atmosphere of being on earth. So when we're looking at manifestation and food and our feelings and energy, all we have to do is say, what is the actual experience with food? That is the manifestation of my energy. And however you are experiencing food, that is your energy. And it's most likely your unconscious energy, which is the energy of your identity. And the identity energy is the hardest one to get to because this is the deep primitive mind where you cannot see the picture while inside the frame. It is just the essence of who you are. And so the only way to start to see who you are is to see how you are dealing with food, how you're feeling about food, and what you are doing with food. And so when we're looking at this, we have a couple, like we have four core wounds that we're really dealing with, where we have this unconscious identity of not good enough, too much. I should be, I shouldn't be, I should have, I shouldn't have. And this goes into the conditioning of how we're being raised to show up in the world, right? And it's okay, like, it just is what it is, like, we really shouldn't be picking our nose in the middle of class when we're in 3rd grade, and we really shouldn't be picking our nose if we're in a Zoom meeting, like, there are certain things that we should and shouldn't do. But the issue is that when we are going through these developmental ages where we are learning what is good enough, what is too much, what should be, what shouldn't be, what should have, what shouldn't have, what ends up happening is if we do not have somebody to help us process negative emotions around these subjects, we internalize these ideas or perspectives as I am not good enough. I am too much. I should be. I shouldn't be. I should have. I shouldn't have. And so that I, and then whatever that next statement is, that is what is causing, that is our energy. That is the relationship with food. That is what is manifesting with the food. And so when we open our minds and we expand our horizon to really see how energy and manifestation work, and that we're experiencing it in the food because that's where we're directing our focus. And the reason why we're directing our focus onto the food is because it's going to give us the outcome, right? In our head, it's either going to make us gain weight and move us away from our goal, or it's going to make us lose weight and move towards our goal. And whatever we make those two things mean determines how our relationship is with the food. So, the second point that I want to share with you is that we want to know, right? You're here because you want to know how to stop this all or nothing approach. And so, the all or nothing approach that happens with the junk food is that we create a list of junk food items that are bad that we shouldn't eat. And that if we are a healthy person, we wouldn't be eating these things, right? We have this way of looking at the junk food as it is the enemy, and we make eating the junk food mean something about us, that we're not doing a good enough job. We're eating too much of the junk food. We shouldn't be eating the junk food. We shouldn't have eaten the junk food. And whatever way we identify and make our self worth mean something on a value scale because of eating the junk food, then that's when we get into this cycle of abuse where we're really mean to ourselves. And then we go on restriction cycles until we can't handle it anymore. And then we end up binging. So the only way to stop this is to eat a little bit of junk food every single day. And I have got this down to a T. I have C's chocolates that I eat every day. I have cookies that I eat every day. Sometimes I'm eating ice cream. Sometimes I'm eating raw cookie dough. I've been on a kick with the circus animals frosted cookies for a while. I eat a little bit of Danish almost every day if that's in the house, like the big monstrous one from Trader Joe's. So if we eat a little bit of these forbidden foods every single day, we desensitize ourselves from the morality that we've learned how to give it. Because if we eat a little bit of junk food every day, but we're primarily eating towards our goal, we're not going to have any detriment to our aesthetic goals or our health goals. And now I do want to speak to a little bit of the junk food thing because a lot of the junk food in America is not sold in other countries because their government won't let them eat that. But our government is closely tied to pharmaceuticals, and pharmaceutical companies also own the junk food companies. So they sell us the poison and the cure. So there is something to say like maybe you don't want to be eating a lot of the mainstream junk. Like, I'm not gonna be eating, Snickers and Kit Kats and Reese's because those don't really have a lot of real ingredients. I go to C's where I'm eating more like singular whole food ingredients of milk, sugar, cocoa, caramel. I'm not eating a bunch of stuff that you can't pronounce or it's just a bunch of chemicals. So I do wanna make sure that when I'm talking about junk food, I am talking about junk food, but I also am like, want to consider that there is really toxic things that are designed to keep us unhealthy. And so we definitely do want to like make sure that we're not eating too much of that. Okay. So number three, what I want to share with you, and then we're going to wrap it up, is I want to share with you the exact protocols that we do in the Fat Life. So right now would be the time. We are 13 minutes, 40 seconds in. This would be the time for you to take out your notes because this is basically free information that otherwise you would be getting in the paid community. So, the first thing that we do is assess your five eating styles. You're either a binger, a yo yo dieter, macros mad. So, this is where you're insanely tracking everything to a T, and you do not have a time frame to get on stage or be a certain weight to do a powerlifting meet. And there's macros sane, where you are using macro tracking to like really kind of like get a little bit of an objective view of what's going on with your body, especially when your hunger and your cravings increase, or when like your carb cravings versus fat cravings start to increase because of where you are in the four phases of your menstrual cycle. And then last but not least of the five styles is your moderation, where you've got it down to where you're really just eating a little bit of everything and you don't really have any issues with food. And this is the type of person that would be in the fat life if they were using food as a manifestation trigger to show the universe that you are capable of being the person to handle your dreams. And so there's lots of ways that I work with people with food in the fat life, whether it is to release the attachment and change their energy just for themselves so they stop being so hard on themselves, or if they are doing it to lose weight, or if they are doing it to gain muscle, they need to eat more if they want to gain muscle, or if they're using it as a way for manifestation for some other goal that they have, that they don't have an issue with food, so we're using the food as a manifestation trigger. The next thing that we do is we journal before, during, and after sabotage. So when you join the Fat Life community, you have an intake form about your eating style. And so if you are someone who does yo-yo dieting or you binge, you have a couple of options of how you're going to do this. So I'm sharing that with you right now. If you diet or if you binge, okay, let's do the dieting first. So if you're a yo-yo dieter, just where you have spells where you are restricting yourself and then spells where you are off the wagon, where you're not paying attention to what you're eating, you're gaining a little bit of weight, the longer that you're on the bottom of your yo-yo, but you're not binging. So what I tell people when they come into the container like that is that you can keep dieting. Like if you're on a diet right now and you're a yo-yo dieter, you don't binge, you have a couple of options. You can diet until you feel the urge to stop dieting, or you can purposely go off your diet and start to eat some of your forbidden foods or whatever it is that you would normally eat when you're not on the diet. For the bingers, I say, okay, you can do whatever it is that you're doing right now, resist the binge, allow the urge to binge to come up whenever it's going to come up. And then in that moment, you're going to allow yourself to binge and you're going to journal before, during, and after. And so what this allows us to do is let the body do, like, pace your inner work or your energy work, because there's natural rhythms for why you go restriction and why you yo-yo, and why you go restriction and then why you totally blow it out of the water with binges. It could be hormonal, it could be work related, it could be the world related, like it could be like so many factors. And so it really doesn't matter how we go about it or how you go about it. You just want to be aware that eventually what you're going to be doing is journaling before, during, and after you sabotage, because that tells us so much about your energy. Because the before is when you're all psyched up and you're kind of like in the proving energy and you're like feeling really good, you're feeling in your power. And then when you start to feel the urge, when you feel it come on, that's like when our energy is dropping and we're kind of feeling a little defeated. And it's like we go into like a little bit of victim energy, and victim energy in the sense of that you're just not in your power, where you have relinquished your emotional empowerment to something external, circumstantial power, as Melanie Ann Layer would say. So if you're in circumstantial power, that is when you're feeling the urge to binge because you're not feeling empowered enough to make the decisions for yourself. You're requiring the food to soothe you, to make you feel better in whatever way. When we journal during the sabotage, so if you are on the yo-yo and you're just like going out to eat food that like you wouldn't eat if you considered yourself on a diet, or if you are in a full-blown binge, what you're going to do is journal the entire time that you're binging or that you're on your yo-yo. And you really want to listen to the thoughts and feelings. You want to listen to the thoughts and you want to feel the emotions that are coming up, because what you're actually experiencing in this moment is the emotions of times in your life that you were unable to process and experience. And the thoughts that you're having is the human conditioning that is judging you as not good enough, too much, should be, shouldn't be, should have, shouldn't have, because of the emotions that you're having. So now we actually get to unpack your energy of thoughts and feelings, which is a positive charge of the mind energy that is above matter, right? Our mind energy has not manifested, but our feeling energy is a vibration, and that is matter. So what we're actually observing is the two polarities of creation, the thought that then gets manifested. Isn't this interesting? Then, when we journal after the sabotage, this is where we really get to see the conditioned mindset. This is where we get to see everything that we have learned about how we are not good enough, too much, should have, shouldn't have, should be, shouldn't be. And we get to find out the way that we have been victimized by that, by the sensations that we're having in our body, how we have made those conditioned mindsets that I just said make something mean about us and our value as a woman and because of our body. So now that we have this all on paper, we have the empowered, I am in my power perspective when everything is going well. We have the thoughts and feelings when the urge is happening. We have the thoughts and feelings when the sabotage is happening. Then we have the thoughts and feelings post sabotage. And the thoughts and feelings post sabotage is going to help us see the cycle of abuse, however, you have been abused by caregivers or by bullies. And then also, how you think in your conditioned mindset, you need to be the opposite. If you don't feel good enough, you're going to figure out ways that you need to overdo things. If you feel like you've eaten too much, you're going to pull back and you're going to restrict yourself even more. If you feel like you should be or shouldn't be something, you're going to rearrange yourself to try to fit into some woman stereotype. If you feel like you should have or shouldn't have, you're going to do something to punish yourself. So when we have this on paper, now we can actually really start to unpack this because then what we do, and this is one of the things that is so unique about the PHAT Life, is that we have three key astrological placements that we work with in your specific natal chart. Your Lilith, which has to do with the aspects of being a woman where we are shamed and rejected, your Chiron, which is the not good enough energy, where the thing that like we're always going to deal with. And but these two things, when we look at that Lilith placement, this is where we rip the band-aid off and we go towards how we want to look and owning the reason why we want to look that way. Because if we start there, not just being healthy, not worrying about being superficial, not worrying about how people are going to shame and reject us because they think that we're shallow because we want to be as hot as possible, then we're going right into this unconscious Lilith energy that we all have, and that is already showing up in your relationship with your food and your body image. So when we have all of this journaling stuff around the food, and then we look at where your Lilith placement is, it allows you to do the inner work faster. I am an Aries rising. My Capricorn is midheaven. My South Node is midheaven. I have zero time to fart around with this stuff. I want to get this stuff done quickly. And so in the PHAT Life, what I've done for you is I've taken my 15 years of inner work that started when I got diagnosed with PTSD and figured out the fastest way to put it all together so that you can get through this really quickly. Your Chiron energy is where we are the wounded healer. And so if we're women and we're stepping into leadership and we're owning our power and we're like, hey, like, we should not be on the sidelines anymore. We want a different future for the next generation of women that's even better than the one that we have right now, because the one that we have right now is pretty damn good. Then the Chiron energy, when we really assess that this unconscious energy that we all have and where it specifically shows up for us in a unique way, when we take that energy and we were like, this is the thing that is my contribution to other women. This is the thing that ends up making you magnetic. And when you are a magnetic, you attract things to you, but you're also able to create more because your creation is that mind energy that has not manifested yet. And your vibration is the matter, the material energy that brings things to you. So when you're able to look at the Chiron energy of where it shows up in your chart, guess what? That's the thing that you're here to bring to the community of women and to the people that you want to serve so that you're like filling in that gap. So like for me, my Chiron is in Taurus, which has to do with the body and finances. My goal is, or like my life purpose or my expertise, like however you want to say it, is knowing the body inside and out, energetically, mechanically, and emotionally. And the thing that I want to do with my money, I don't want to own 5 houses. I don't want a private jet. What I want is I want to fund programs for the next generation of children, especially those affected by war. Because we know about attachment trauma in 0 to 3, we are forming our identity. How many children have lost their parents, have seen horrific things happen in the ages of 0 to 3? That's our next society. So my goal with this Chiron, which I thought meant I was going to be broke forever, I was like, oh no, this is where I get to contribute. We get to fill in the gap of the wound. We get to repair the wound, but we do it not only for ourselves, but for the collective, for humanity. The North Node I didn't mention. The North Node is the third placement that we take a really close look at because the North Node is where you're going. And so when we look at the North Node and we use it as our North Star, our guiding light, then we have a clear path of where we are going in this lifetime. So then that means anything that is not aligned with that North Node has got to go. And you don't make it go away by ignoring it or rejecting it or shaming it. You make it go away by integrating. By any time that you are faced with something that does not match your North Node, you process it. The biggest problem that we have is that we don't know what to do with emotions. We don't know how to process emotions. And our society is built on trauma, trauma porn. Look at all the crime shows. It's based on trauma and drama. We have so many people lashing out, blaming everybody for their problems. We see this in the dating programs, the dating shows, which I love to watch. I love the dating shows. But we also see it with like our crime television. Like I just saw a woman, there was a terrible accident in front of the office yesterday, and the woman in the back seat died. And when the cops were able to like kind of pull the airbag on the driver's side away, like they cut it and got it away, the man sitting there was hung over, suspended by his seat belt, and he was all bloody and full of glass. And I went like that. And I was like, oh, looked at my mom and we're like, "Oh my god, is he dead?" And then on the other flip side of it, I'm like, "I've seen this on TV." We're also a little bit desensitized to the actual trauma in real life because we have it so much on TV. So anyway, side note, um, processing was the point. We need to learn how to process our emotions. Okay, so there are 2 more things that we do in the fat life with your food. So we desensitize your body to your binge foods. So there is a legitimate addiction that happens with your binge foods because your cells are surrounded by molecules, molecules of emotion, which are also chemical. Actually, my computer stand is on a book called Handbook of Emotions, 4th edition, that goes through the molecular quality of emotions. And so when we are, and so if you can think about emotions as also chemicals, because they secrete from the brain. If we're also looking at chemical addiction to food, and especially with our junk food sold in America, not allowed in other countries, um, they put what's called excitotoxins in it, and basically that's just a label to say this is going to get into the body and it's going to stimulate the addictive centers in the brain to make the person eat more, right? So that they can sell more, they can get more sick, and the same people who own the toxic food companies are also the pharmaceuticals, so they get to sell us the solution. Smart. They're so smart. They're so smart. So we also want to look at how we are addicted to these foods. And so we could be addicted to whole foods like sugar, flour, it doesn't have to be all toxic stuff. But when we desensitize, we're really desensitizing that craving. And so that means that whatever it is, for whatever it is that you have when you're not on your diet, when you're in your yo-yo, or whatever it is that you have when you binge, you are required in the fat life to bring those foods into your house and eat a little bit of them every day. Now, the desensitizing process, it's called exposure therapy, and it is very scary, and it is a branch of psychology. A lot of people do it with spiders, that you're in the room with the spider, and then they bring the spider closer, and eventually the spider is on the person to get rid of their fear of spiders. When you do it with the food, it looks like this. If your addiction food, if your binge food is a bag of Fritos, that means that you look on the label of the Fritos bag and of what a serving is. If a serving is half a cup, three quarters of a cup, or a cup. You get a serving out and you put it in a bowl and you go sit down on the couch. You watch your favorite, whatever it is that you do and you binge, and you eat that entire serving of Fritos or whatever it is that you binge on. And then if you still want more, you got to wait like 5 to 10 minutes. You set a timer and then you go get another serving. When you are doing exposure therapy, you are not allowed to eat out of the container because this is also a process where you're getting to know what an actual serving is versus just stuffing yourself with a binge when you're totally checked out, numbed out. And so this really gives you mental insight. So you're kind of being a grown up to yourself. It gives you some insight to what you're actually eating. And then also this desensitizing process, because you're moving slower, because you're doing one serving at a time and you're having to wait 5 to 10 minutes to see if you really truly want more, it gives you time to sense your energy. It gives you time to have an emotional experience to where you can really start to process and be like, do I want more? Why do I want more? Do I like the crunch? Do I like the saltiness? Do I like a little bit that oil texture in my mouth when I'm mashing it up? And when you can kind of identify what it is that you like about that food and how it makes you feel, what does it remind you of? I had a moment where I ate like 6 bowls of cinnamon toast crunch, and my mom and I were at the store, and I was looking at it, and she's like, "Just get it." And I was like, "But it's made with wood sawdust." So these companies can put sawdust, Rice Krispie treat marshmallow squares. They have sawdust in them because it gives volume and it's cheap. And I was like, "No," I'm like, "But this is so toxic." And she's like, "But you keep talking about cinnamon toast crunch. Just get the damn container." So I did, and then eventually I had 6 bowls of cereal. And every single bite that I took, I said, "I am not," this was in the summer of 2024, okay? Each bite I took, I said, "I am not bad for liking this. I am not bad for liking this." Because I was really trying to like get some awareness of like, why am I obsessed with cinnamon toast crunch and why do I never let myself eat it? Well, number one, I'm obsessed with it because it reminded me of the carefree days when my cousin Rebecca and I would swim all day in the summer and then stay up watching the USA channel of scary movies, eating whatever it is that we wanted. That's what it reminded me of, and I was like, "Oh my god, I love this." And then, the bad part, um, I think I just was like, didn't I just wanted to figure out, like, why the Cinnamon Toast Crunch was on a pedestal, and, oh, one of the things that I don't like about it, I don't like about cereal, cold cereal in general, is that it really scrapes the roof of my mouth, and so then my mouth will, like, take, like, 2 days to heal, and I'm like, "Oh, yeah, that's why I don't eat cereal also." And so then this allowed me to see, like, why did I make it forbidden? I made it forbidden, number 1, because it's toxic, number 2, because it hurts my mouth, and the reason why I want it is because it reminds me of the carefree days with my cousin. Perfect. So, how can I create the carefree emotional experience that I had with my cousin during the summers on a regular basis to where the cinnamon toast crunch, I don't have this internal battle of I shouldn't have it, but I really want it. And I have not wanted it since. Okay. And then making 3 daily nutritional commitments that are effortless, effective, and enjoyable. So this is one of my favorites, and this is something that you can incorporate as your binge foods. So like oftentimes I have a piece of chocolate or like half a piece of chocolate, excuse me, after lunch because I want something sweet after the savory food from lunch. And then a lot of times I'll also have another piece of chocolate around 3 or 4. I have my gallon of water that I drink half a gallon to a gallon a day. And then I just, put it in these other containers so that I can keep them clean. And then I also have a meal replacement shake, usually every single day. And a lot of times I add egg whites to it. There's also like, I just make sure that like I get a good serving of protein in, whether it's like with food or whether it's a shake. I get my water in, and then I make sure that I'm eating a little bit of chocolate or a cookie every single day. And then that has really helped me move the dial forward to where I never feel the stress of restriction. And I never feel like, yeah, That's basically it. I never feel the stress of restriction. So I'm able, like last night, I went out and I had 2 glasses of wine. I split a fried chicken sandwich. I split a big container of fries. And I was like, this is awesome. This is great. Zero stress. And in the past, I definitely would have been like, oh my God, if I'm going to have the surplus of calories, then I better change my macros for every single meal to make sure that in this week period, I'm still in a deficit. And it would have really had a lot of mind energy, and that's fine. Like, it's a really good experience to go through that with macros because you really learn a lot about your energy. And but like if you don't have like a hard outcome where like you have to be ready on stage for a bikini show, or you don't have to weigh a certain amount for a powerlifting meet, if you don't have a reason to be that meticulous, like it's kind of like why put yourself through that? So that's my 2 cents. Okay, so if you want to get started on this, you can do the Fat Life gamified, which is $49 a month. You do community, which is $555 a month. You can do private, which is $1,500 a month. And then you can also do an intensive, which is $333. So if you are interested, you can click the links on my highlight reel on Instagram, my pinned post on Facebook. I have each of the links on 6 comments, I think. And then if you're on YouTube, you can click the payment link in the description. And I feel like there was something else I want. Oh, Rebirth 50. So Rebirth 50, you can use that on the coupon code for the monthly for the community or for the private coaching. You get 50% off your first month if you do the community coaching or if you do the private coaching. And that is all I have for you. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye.